everybody. My name is Erica, and I am a Children's Services Librarian with the Seattle Public Library. And welcome to Early Learning Together, where we hope to give you some tools and tricks to help you and your kids on their early learning journey. There are 5 practices that we focus on when we're talking about early literacy. They are playing, reading, singing, talking, and writing. And today, we are going to play while exploring and learning with our 5 senses. So as we are able to get out and do more things over the next couple of weeks and months, we can do more things with our communities and with each other. But those are also times when it may be easy for kids and even adults to start to feel overwhelmed because everything seems new again. And being aware of our senses and what we are perceiving can help kids and really all of us work through those times of really big emotions. Checking in with our senses can help us bring us back to ourselves and reflect, and just increase our awareness of ourselves, of each other, and of our whole world. But first, what are our 5 senses? So we perceive the world in a lot of different ways. Many of us see with our eyes, hear with our ears, smell with our noses, taste with our mouths, and touch with our fingers and hands, and really the skin of our whole body. So you can explore the 5 senses of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching anytime and anywhere with your kids. One fun way to explore and play with your senses is to go on a sensory walk, and the weather is beautiful outside today, so let's go. Okay, I am outside, and I'm actually outside the North Gate Library and North Gate Community Center, and let's start exploring with our senses. So with my eyes, I can see trees, and in the grass I can see flowers. I see yellow flowers, and I see some white flowers with yellow middles. And on the street close by, I can see cars. And then using my ears, I can hear the cars. I can hear the traffic out on the street. I can hear kids playing in the playground nearby. I can hear the wind moving through the branches and rustling the paper in front of me. I can smell the fresh air. I can also smell some of the dust from the construction across the street. Yeah. And I can taste. I don't recommend when you're out on a sensory walk, just walking up to something and tasting it, but you can bring something along that your child can taste. For example, I have some juice here, and we can give it a taste. It's kind of sweet and kind of tangy and tart at the same time. And then we can use our sense of touch. We can feel the breeze. I can feel that it's chilly, and I can feel the sun on my back. So there are a lot of ways that we can notice using our senses. And sometimes you can experience things with more than one of your senses. Like the traffic, I can see and hear the traffic. And the construction, I can see it across the street, I can hear it, and I can smell it. So you can ask your kids when they're noticing something, which of their senses they're using to notice those things. Should we head back inside? Let's go. Thank you so much for joining me on that sensory walk, my friends. I hope that you had fun and that you got to see how to incorporate noticing your senses and what your senses are perceiving, whether you're out in the world or even just spending some time at home. Checking in with our senses is also a great way to get through a moment of stress or big emotion, and it can be a great tool for moderating and regulating our emotions. It can also be a really good tool to bring focus by naming and counting things in our environment, helping them feel not quite so big and overwhelming. One way to do this is a 5 senses check-in. And you can do this with your child, or you can just do it for yourself and model it for your child. What we're going to do is check in with each of our 5 senses. And it goes like this. Notice 5 things that you can see. Notice 5 things that you can see. And look around. Is there anything that you didn't notice before now? So I can see the buds on the trees outside. Outside, I can also see the sun reflecting off of a roof next door. I can see some papers curling on the cabinet next to me. I can see that the clock on the wall isn't quite correct. I can also see on the carpet there are some little marks where the table was once sitting. So I noticed 5 things that I could see. Next, notice 4 things that you can feel. And don't just think about your fingers. Again, you can use the sense of touch with your whole body. So, what are 4 things that you can feel with your sense of touch? Like, I can feel the warmth of my sweater after being outside. It was a little chilly. That's 1. And then I'm also noticing when I touch my sweater that it feels a little scratchy. That's 2. I can feel my toes wiggling in my shoes. That's 3. And it doesn't have to be something that you're touching right now. You can reach out and touch something. Like I can feel the smooth surface of the wood table in front of me. That's 4. Next, notice 3 things that you can hear. Listen for background noises that you don't usually think about. So I can hear the whirring and whooshing of the air coming through the vents. I can hear kids playing outside. And I can hear the really quiet ticking of the clock on the wall that is not quite correct. Next, notice 2 things that you can smell. Notice 2 things that you can smell. Is there something that you can smell that you can't name? That's totally okay. Like, I can smell something plasticky. I think it's the chair. I think this chair is made out of some sort of plasticky material, and that's something I'm smelling. And I can also smell the outside still. I think maybe I brought some of the outside back in with me on my clothes. So I can smell a little bit of that fresh air coming in with me on my clothes. So that's 2 things that I smelled. And then notice 1 thing you can taste. Notice 1 thing you can taste. And like we did outside, you can even take a sip of something. I can still taste in my mouth the sweet tartness of the juice that I had when we were outside. So we checked in with our seeing and with our sense of touch and with our hearing and with our smelling and with our tasting. And now we can take a breath and notice all of those things and let it out. Thank you so much for sharing that sensory check-in with me. You can adapt this mindfulness exercise for however works for you and your kid in that moment. And you can make it feel however it feels appropriate to you at that time. Another way to explore the senses is by reading a book. One of my favorites is called My Five Senses by Aliki. And in this book, a child experiences the world around them by using their different senses, from playing with their puppy to bouncing a ball to just watching the moon. I hope that you'll check out this sweet book and the many others that we have about the different ways that we perceive the world. Thank you so much for joining me today, my friends. I hope that you have fun with your kids exploring the world and find calm in checking in with yourselves, however that works for you and your family. Take care and be safe, my friends. Bye.